Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, was twisted and turned into Darth Vader by Sith Lord Darth Sidious. Darth Vader would become the most powerful Force user the galaxy had ever seen. However, this was until his defeat on Mustafar at the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi that left Vader a shell of the man he could become. But what if Vader fulfilled his destiny and reached his full potential? For Vader to do this, he must reach a few prerequisites. But firstly, he must defeat Obi-Wan Kenobi on Mustafar and leave the duel with his limbs intact. As Vader leaves, he brings Padme with him back to Coruscant and drops her off at the most prestigious hospital on the planet, and makes his way over to Palpatine. He informs him of Yoda's escape, but he reassures Anakin that in due time, the Grand Master will meet his demise. Order 66 was successful, and the Jedi are now a shadow of what they once were. As they're talking, Vader senses Padme across the planet into labor, and he and Sidious rush there immediately. Sidious remains out of sight, but Anakin stands close by Padme's side as he helps relieve the pain associated with the pregnancy. Anakin's nerves are at an all-time high. This is the moment he's been dreading. Sidious and Vader focus the Force through Padme, and she successfully gives birth to the twins, Luke and Leia, and Vader couldn't be happier. Sidious wants to help Anakin because he knows how powerful the twins can become and will play a vital role in their empire. After a while later, Anakin leaves and thanks Sidious for his help, who's delighted by the recent events over the past 48 hours. His grand plan has come to fruition, the death of the Jedi and Darth Vader as his apprentice. In the following weeks, he finalizes the beginning of his empire and begins to subdue the galaxy under his control. After Padme's pregnancy, she couldn't forgive Anakin for all he's done, turning on the Republic and killing Obi-Wan. She was placed under home detention, and over these few weeks, Anakin spent all his time there with her and the children. However, Padme wouldn't speak to him, but Anakin continued to plead with her to forgive him for all he's done, that he did it for them, and they all wouldn't be together without him. But she doesn't budge, and can't look him in the eyes. However, Palpatine wasn't happy with this. He needed Vader to be committed to the dark side and their empire. He's too distracted by his wife and family. He divulges a plan to force Anakin further down the dark path and ensure his complete dedication to the dark side. Anakin goes to visit Padme one day to find she isn't there. He turns around to see Palpatine standing there with Padme in his grasp, and he ignites his lightsaber to point it at her throat. Vader begs Sidious to let Padme go, but he simply shakes his head and tells Vader he must learn the true meaning of pain, that only pain can shape him into the man he must become, and he ignites his saber through Padme's chest. Vader screams in pain as he watches the love of his life collapse to the ground, lifeless. He ignites his crimson blade and rushes towards Sidious. He swings at him, going for a finishing strike, but Sidious simply moves out of the way. Vader is too emotional, which has left him off balance in the Force. Sidious disarms Vader, kicks him to his knees, and holds his blade to his throat. Sidious explains how this is Vader's first lesson. Pain, anger, and hatred can be useful tools for power, but only when one has control over them, not the other way around. At this moment, Vader understands the true philosophy of the Sith, the philosophy Darth Bane started. Sidious, his master, is the embodiment of power, and it's his job as his apprentice to crave it. He once again wasn't strong enough to save the people he cared about, and the only ones he has left are his children. He won't let them get taken from him, and to do this, he must become more powerful, and can only do this by remaining Palpatine's student. Vader begins to train under Sidious and learn the tenets of the dark side. He gave into his hate, anger, and pain, but instead of them controlling him, he learned to use them for his benefit, bend the power it gave him to his will. He learned key dark side techniques such as Force Lightning, Force Crush, but he was particularly attuned to Deadly Sight, a technique where he could channel the hatred he felt through his eyes and project it onto his victim, blistering and vaporizing their skin. Together, they continue to establish their Sith Empire and spread their influence over the galaxy. They switch from a clone army to the Imperial Stormtroopers, and the Death Star project is well underway. Vader agrees to Sidious's bidding, as he knows he needs him to build his own power in the dark side, and doesn't have the political ability that he has, which is necessary to establish their empire, but he will learn from him. With Vader as his enforcer, the control of the Empire was much stronger than before. The Inquisitor program was mighty, and Vader was efficient at stomping out whatever Jedi remained. Now that Vader didn't lose his limbs on Mustafar, he still has his immense potential in the Force and learns various new dark side techniques. He favored Force Lightning, completely incinerating an enemy with it, as well as his ability Force Drain, the power to completely drain the life force from an opponent to the point of death. Vader's greatest power, which he trained on immensely as a Sith, was Force Sight, the ability to peer into the future. However, the Force only granted him small fragments at a time. He used this technique when in deep meditation with his master Sidious, and they channel the depths of the dark side to peer across the galaxy to find the location of Master Yoda and the remaining Jedi who had started rebuilding the Order together on Dagobah. They head there together with the Stormtrooper army behind them as the two Sith, the most powerful Force users the galaxy has ever seen, carve their swords of light through the last remaining Jedi and completely wipe them from existence. Vader was also interested in dealing with the political rebellion, and he and Sidious schemed and fabricated many accidents causing the deaths of senators, including Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, that they assumed would partake in a rebellion movement. Because of this, there were no political rivals to their empire. Vader continued to raise his kids with whatever twisted love is left in his heart. He teaches them about the Force, acquaints them with pain from the very start, and inflicts it on them as well. He teaches them to stalk the Force like hunters, rather than surrender to it like prey. Their power is developing slowly, but their potential in the Force is evident. 10 years go by, and Sidious and Vader have complete control of the known galaxy. There is no hint of rebellion, and nothing that could turn the tide of their power. Conflict is extinct, however, there is one last schism to be had. The time has come, when Vader walks into Sidious's throne room, and challenges him for the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith. Vader's power has grown exponentially since he turned to the dark side, and believes he has surpassed his master and deserves to sit atop the throne. Sidious laughs and stands, knowing this day was inevitable, and sends an early shot of Force Lightning at Vader, who reaches out and blocks with the Force. They both turn into a blur as they clash their lightsabers in the center of the room. They thrust Force techniques at each other. Vader attempts to Force drain Sidious, who manages to overcome the attack. Sidious conjures a Force Storm to tear straight through Vader's body, but he enhances his deadly sight to pass through it and latch onto Sidious, causing him to back off. They engage in a battle of Force Lightning, blue cracks emanating from their fingertips. It's seemingly even, until Vader begins using the Force to float and channels all his Force energy through his hands, causing his lightning to turn red and overcome Sidious's completely, electrifying his body, burning his flesh, and sending him flying across the room. Sidious lies there on the brink of death, attempting to contact his midichlorians, a technique which he learned from the journals of Plagueis, and starts bringing them back to life. But Vader walks forward and chokes Sidious with the dark side. He brings Palpatine to death's door and shoves him right through the other side. But in his last moments, Sidious can't help but feel a sense of peace. Not only has the rule of two completed with his death, but the cycle is now over, as Vader is the strongest Force user in history, with no one to challenge him. Or is there? Vader had learned everything he could from Sidious, not only in the Force, but also in the political sphere, and Vader was just as involved as Sidious. And after his death, he swiftly took his place and connections as Emperor. After their duel, Vader had reached a new level of power and was on his way to reaching his full potential. He briefly experienced flight during their duel, and after rigorous training, masters this technique. Following Sidious's death, he now has complete access to his office and archives, reading the journals of ancient Sith Lords, Revan, Malgus, Vitiate, and many more, building his own strength with their wisdom, and only increasing his power. He does this for 5 years, and the twins are well into their teenage years, and are now masters of the dark side. Vader desires more. He senses that there is more for the Empire to take, and he tasks his army with venturing into the unknown regions to see what unexplored territories there are for the taking. He wants to learn every secret of the Force that the galaxy has to offer, and needs the mysteries of the unknown regions to be his. He sends in a few scout ships in many directions. However, a few of them are destroyed as they unintentionally enter Chiss Ascendancy space and due to the Chiss's war policy, that if an entity enters their space unannounced, it's as good as a declaration of war, and they attack Vader's scout ships. He travels there himself in his own Imperial Star Destroyer and waits outside their territory. Vader waits and is hailed by a Chiss commander, and Vader recognizes this man immediately, the Chiss he met during the Clone War when he was still Anakin Skywalker. His name is Thrawn of the Chiss Ascendancy, and he no doubt recognized Anakin as well. Vader calls him by his name, and Thrawn tells Anakin that it's been a long time since they last met. Vader tells Thrawn a lot has changed in this time, but he wants to skip over the reunion. He firmly states that their people must surrender and submit to Imperial occupation, but Thrawn denies this and tells Vader this will never happen. But Vader states he has no choice then but to invade their territory. Vader leaves in his Star Destroyer and begins planning the assault of the Chiss Ascendancy. He knows Thrawn is a keen tactician, and underestimating him would be his downfall. He knows their forces completely outmatch the Chiss, but they have the home advantage as well as the mystery of the unknown regions. On the other side, Thrawn was preparing for the defense of their home. The Chiss had been secretly watching the Empire from afar and knew their strength was far superior to their own. Because of this, the royal aristocratic body of the Chiss Ascendancy and Thrawn held a meeting with the other known powers in the unknown regions, the Killik, Ibruchi, Ruvi, and Vagari, and Thrawn proposed a temporary alliance to join forces against the incoming Empire, who after they've taken over the Chiss Ascendancy, would no doubt come for their territory and the rest of the unknown regions. This alliance was formed, and they combined their forces in secret. Thrawn knew Vader had little understanding of the unknown regions, and he doesn't know of the other key species in this territory, so will keep their alliance hidden. But Vader has the power of the Force, and Thrawn knew this wasn't something that could be overlooked. Vader plans his invasion of the Chiss Ascendancy. His scouts have mapped some of the unknown regions, but so much is still a mystery. However, they know enough about the Ascendancy's territory to lay siege. Vader brings the majority of his forces into the unknown regions. He has complete control of the known galaxy, so there's no risk of rebellion or threat of him being overthrown by an internal force. Because of this, he can focus all his attention and swamp the Chiss Ascendancy. Vader comes out of hyperspace first in his Royal Star Destroyer, followed by 100 Star Destroyers scattered behind him. He lays eyes on the Ascendancy's defense force and stares directly at the command ship where he knows Thrawn will be hiding. He hails their ship and offers Thrawn one last chance to surrender, and all conflict can be avoided, but Thrawn flatly refuses and tells Vader that his victory may not be so simple. Vader attacks first and releases squadrons of TIE fighters and bombers towards the Ascendancy's fleet, backed up with blaster fire from the Star Destroyers. The Chiss follow suit and deploy their own single-man fighters into the battlefield, and their larger ships advance towards Vader. All-out war rages on as the two largest forces the galaxy has to offer collide in the dead of space. Vader stands looking out of the bridge, commanding his forces with precision and guides his tactics through the Force. Thrawn on the opposite side, cool and calm, decides it's time to implement his strategy. He cannot defeat Vader one-on-one in battle by pure strength alone, so must make up for this in other ways. He purposefully strengthened one portion of his fleet compared to the other, and Vader successfully took the bait and focused his attack on the weaker side. Vader's forces began to get the upper hand in battle, as Thrawn's defenses were failing. Vader senses this and commands his troopers forward, and can feel the end of the battle is near. Once they break through the weak side of Thrawn's defenses, his fleet can have direct access to the core with its command ship, and from there, victory is assured. However, as Vader diverts the majority of his forces, Thrawn smirks and sends off a command to allies waiting nearby. Vader senses it right before it happens. Out of hyperspace comes the Killik, Ibruchi, Ruvi, and Vagari, all with the entirety of their forces. In an instant, Vader loses 20% of his forces, as they're gunned down and overcome by sheer strength, and any hope of Vader reaching the Chiss's command ship is lost. Vader sends a desperate command to his forwardmost forces to retreat, but they're picked off one by the Chiss's allies. Thrawn stands in his command ship, smirking, as he watches the unknown Regence's alliance prove effective, as the tide of the battle shifts towards them. Their forces are now on equal level, as Thrawn and his strategy has worked. Thrawn knew from the very beginning that they needed a decisive victory here and now, or else Vader would keep returning with more and more ships until they were defeated. Because of this, he brought the majority of the Chiss defense fleet, and his allies also brought all their entire army to wipe out the majority of Vader's army, forcing a retreat, and then would execute a devastating counterattack to ensure the Empire would never enter the unknown regions again. Vader calls for a retreat as his forces split in the middle and begin moving away from the battlefield. Thrawn was slightly surprised by this and commands all their forces to advance and not let them escape. He hails Vader's ship and taunts him about leaving so soon, but Vader simply chuckles and asks Thrawn, did he really think he wouldn't expect this plan of his? Thrawn didn't know this, but Vader's ability to peer into the future proved useful once again, as he witnessed the Ibuchi, Siruvi, Vigari, and Killik aiding the Chiss in battle, and Vader knew to defeat them all here and now, he had to draw them out. He sacrificed a portion of his fleet, but now he has them right where he wants them, all clustered together. Out of hyperspace, behind Vader's fleet, comes the Death Star, having just finished construction, and makes its way towards Thrawn's forces. Thrawn stares in disbelief. A moon? No, that's a space station, as he commands all his forces to disperse and get out of there immediately. But it's too late. The Death Star has begun charging, and the last thing Thrawn and the entirety of the Chiss defense fleet and Unknown Regions Alliance will see is the green laser that exploded from the Death Star and consumed the entirety of their forces. Victory was Vader's. After the battle, Vader advanced his forces and takes over the Chiss Ascendancy worlds and puts them under strict Imperial law. The Chiss aristocrats surrender, and Vader has full access to their archives, databases, and ultimately star maps of the unknown regions. Over the following 5 years, Anakin expands his influence over every documented world in the unknown regions, from Rakata Prime to Ahch-To, and now rules all of their people. He was successful, and now he, alongside his fully adult and masters of the dark side children, Luke and Leia, rule the entirety of their galaxy. Vader thought all power was his, and he would rule until the end of time. However, one day in his castle on Mustafar, he collapses to the floor as he experiences a disturbance through the Force. He's thrust into a vision and sees multiple large ships, all filled with lightsaber wielding beings who stink of the light side of the Force, gearing up for long distance hyperspace travel. He's thrust back into reality and tries to make sense of what he's witnessed, but no doubt comes to one conclusion. He's just witnessed the Jedi of another galaxy, Peridia, who've just sensed Vader's strong presence in the dark side and are planning on coming to cleanse it. He knows they're coming, and alongside Luke and Leia, make arrangements for their defense. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know if you'd like a part 2. If you enjoyed the video, you have to watch What If Anakin Became the Emperor, and What If Anakin Was Never Found on Tatooine. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and what other videos you'd like to see, and may the Force be with you.